We've got a really, really good discussion here. It's basically a fireside chat with my friend Mohan that we'll just let you guys in on, right? He and I have these kind of conversations, so it's actually a very, very fun one. So while other people are walking in, Mohan, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Right. I'm Mohan Nair. I used to be, I'm formerly everything. I used to be the Chief Innovation Officer for Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cambia Health. I helped make the transformation from one single company with 4 health plans to 25 different businesses that were managed through a Cambia Health umbrella. I took the role of Chief Marketing Exec for a period of 7 years and walked through the transformation. And then after that, the holding company asked me to be the Chief Innovation Officer for 10 years, where I did what in 2010, I think, started developing companies. We launched 10 companies. Prior to that, I had about 3 exits from startups and 3 corporate roles. And I have a master's in AI that I got in 1982 when icons were not invented. And so I'm really glad I can finally get a job now because I think people are curious about AI. And I guess that's a topic.
That is the topic today. And so really, one other thing you should know about him, because he comes from the payer world, if there are any providers that need to shout at anybody or blame anybody on the payer side, he probably created some of the, or many of the rules that you're all suffering through right now. So take him up on that offer. Since he's no longer there, he'll just be a sounding board for you to tell you why things are as crazy as they are sometimes as they seem from the payer angle. And I would definitely take him up on that because a lot of times when we don't understand why things are the way that they are, we build bad technology for the wrong reasons, et cetera. But if we know why a payment works a particular way or why does it work the way we want it to be, we'll build better technology. So really this conversation is about as more digital comes in, we have an abundance of data, we have a generally abundance of technology in general, not quite an abundance of working AI agents. But obviously today, human ingenuity matters even more than it did 5 or 10 years ago. Explain why that is, and talk about your book a little bit as well. And what is your viewpoint on human ingenuity today?
Well, I think being a practitioner, innovator from start, I always had that inkling of wanting to do things that were transformative, not just disruptive. I didn't really understand that through the process of my life, but as I look back now, being a writer, speaker kind of guy, I have an opportunity to be given contemplation time and introspection. The belief system I'm coming with now, after writing the book and doing the research for 5 years, is that artificial intelligence or Gen AI has an incredible opportunity. I'm as excited now as I was in '82 when I saw the Mac be introduced and how Xerox PARC manifested through Steve Jobs and created that environment. And ARPANET was becoming internet. I looked a lot better then. I mean, like you, Shahid, we're bald and beautiful now. But those days I had hair and, I was attractive. So if you want to know what happens to innovators, this is what happens to innovators. We kind of decay quickly. But the idea that the machines are coming, people have 2 viewpoints. One viewpoint is that they're AI obsessed. I coined that term in the book. AI obsessed, or they are AI afraid. And they sort of manifest that in organizations, and they also manifest that in their homes and their own individuals' lives. So I got very intrigued by these two sides of the coin. And is there one where the coin can stand on its own without hitting one or the other? And that was the research I did and the work that I did. And looking back through the years, trying to find models that could help us understand this. I mean, the last 2 days, I've been enjoying you and what a great moderator you are. And I know I admire you deeply for that. Yeah. It takes a particular person to know but never believe that you have to say it. So I think you're very, very powerful that way. But the ability to understand governance has been the question that I've heard for the last 2 days. It's all about how do I govern it in the corporation? How do I expel it the right way? How do I manage it? How do I protect it? How do I guard against the fallacies that are coming upon us? But I did not focus on that. I mean, because you all focused on that so well, I focused on um, individual governance. I focused on you as people. And I decided that if it doesn't work at your personal level, and it doesn't work in your family or your children, then it probably won't work in the business. You know, everyone knows that ethics has to be managed, and there's an ethics committee at the board. I've been a board member, and I know that you have an ethics committee, but ethics is fundamentally preventing that guy or gal from stealing that yellow pad and then starting to steal $1 billion afterwards. It's a slow burn that happens at the individual level. So I thought the best way I could talk to you or others about it is person to person. I mean, we can just discuss it as humans and how do we manage it.
Yeah, and
Does
that's a
that give you a
great
perspective?
It does. It does. It's a great way of looking at it. And when we think about it as innovators, often in healthcare, we look at things, even though we pretend to be patient-centered and patient in the center of everything, and we are patient-facing, et cetera. Almost everything that we do, every policy that we create, all the documents that we write, all the training that we do, is generally centered around the protection of the institution rather than the protection of a particular patient. And that's a natural outcome. It's not an evil thing. It's not nefarious, but it's a direction we end up taking because we're at an institution, and that institution, the first job of any institution is for the institution to stay alive, right? And so that's why it ends up being very institutional facing. And so if innovators don't realize that they are accidentally representing the institution first, then every technology that they build, et cetera, will be institution facing and institution first, et cetera. But what I love about this direction is that we know that that's never been the case. Even all institutions are just amalgamations of humans and individuals. Right. So if we think about that as a centering topic, which is if you use AI properly, then everyone else around you probably will do the same as well, because it's a cultural thing that goes forward. Where does that start? Is it top at the bottom? Like where does it begin?
Yeah, it's quite it was like joining a circle that was singing loud and I couldn't hear my own voice. So I had to start with research, and there is a large body of research, not as large as other bodies because it's a new phenomenon, with 2017 being the time that Google brought together the attention algorithms, and then that started taking hold in OpenAI and the other world. So it's a new thing. But there's enough phenomena to describe or understand what AI fear is. Fear in institutions, McKinsey did a study on institutions. They looked at 1,000 organizations, and they found fear to be defined as the leading cause of the lack of innovation in companies. And McKinsey saying that makes it really real.
Oh, of course, it's got to be true then.
Yeah, that's $1 million right there. So I believe them. And in looking at their research, they found that in the 1,000 companies, they were either
Siri thinks we're talking to her.
Yeah. Was that me or you?
No, it's me. I don't know why she heard the trigger word.
No, it's not me. So they found that there were 3 categories of fear in individuals: fear of loss of job, fear of being embarrassed by your peers, and then fear of losing control. Those were the 3 fears that, in innovation definition, held back new ideas that were transformative. So that's AI fear. So if you take that and apply it to the same template of AI, you'd get pretty similar feelings that organizations are going through now. Then there's AI obsession, which I call the bigger issue, which is, and I define it in 3 ways. So allow me, I only have a theory. This is not like proven in academic research today, and I'm hoping that to spawn a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I've done meta research on this matter, so I can defend my theory. But the theory is that AI obsession is made up of 3 issues. 1, if you see yourself taking the convenient route to getting an answer, you find that you just want to do it, just AI it, and getting the answer. If you find yourself giving the first opinion to the machine. Some people say, I can't get started. I just want to get kind of launched. I want to ask the machine for the first opinion. They don't say first opinion. Some ideas, I'm going to trigger it. And the third is if you fundamentally settle for good enough, you go to the average of the mean. In other words, I would send something and say, write me an article on this blah, 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 so I can post it on LinkedIn. And he'll write me an article. I'll say, yeah. And you just send it out. Well, most of the audience that reads it also says, yeah. They can't feel your soul in the writing. And it's been proven over and over again that it's what they call AI slop. Those three indicators to me are the indicators for AI obsession. You're becoming addictive to a particular ease of doing things. So then I said, okay, if it's that simple, what is the antidote? And I'm really afraid to be labeled because we live in a dichotomous world. You're either here or you're here. You're either with AI or against AI. Those who don't do AI are going to be left behind. Who was the guy somebody from Harvard said that, right? You'll be replaced by somebody who has AI. I don't agree. I don't think you'll be replaced if you don't follow the rules of being obsessed with AI. I think, in fact, there are some cognitive atrophy symptoms that come from overusing AI, Gen AI particularly. And if you start to obsess, I believe that there's enough studies now that prove that your brain is extending to the machine and you are believing that it's your brain when it's not. And there's enough research, and I put most of it in the book because I want it not to be the warning label for AI, because that's how people will label me.
Right.
And somebody in the audience will say, we said that about the calculator, we said about the printing press. Those are the classic lines of highly obsessed, addictive people. They're like, cigarette, just take one. It's just that sort of feeling you get where a community says, burn him, and I don't want to be the warning label. I do want to be the nutrition label.
Yeah.
Which is, take it in doses and realize that your cognition could be compromised.
Right.
And I can go into detail if you want.
No, definitely. And remember, the audience, please jump in. These are, they're not heretical thoughts, but they are thoughts that that have to be discussed and elaborated on. So by all means, ask questions when you have them. But I do want to dive into one area, which is those that are obsessed. Are they the lead? Are they going to be the tip of the spear? They learn quickly, and then they understand that they're obsessed, or do you feel like they're going to be so addicted that they're not going to understand the kinds of warnings that you would see on the nutrition label, even and then they can't get back from that obsession itself? So I get the sense that my own viewpoint is that now in the last probably 2.5 years, I've written tons of code, and up until about say last September, I was in your camp saying, you know what, I don't want to go in and get the AI to code it first. I will be the one that codes it first and let it be the peer reviewer. And I think it was Michael that made the point here that it is absolutely true that the reason why coding AI works so well is we made it for ourselves. Right, the original large language models in Google's attention is all you need paper was fed with huge amounts of code in addition to large amounts of English text, and then other languages were added. But the reason why coding works really, really well is that it was done for us. But it works well for three kinds of groups of people. One is if you're really, really good at what you do, it makes you phenomenally better. If you're average already, it's going to marginally improve you, but you're not going to become a 10x guy or anything like that. But if you're bad at what you do, holy shit, it's going to make you a lot worse, right? And so that's really where you got to be very, very careful, is that the obsessed guy, I'm actually okay with obsession if you already know what you're doing.
Well,
do you feel that?
Yes, I do. I feel that very deeply. And allow me to parse that a bit.
Yeah.
Swiss Business School did a research on cognitive work, and they had, don't ask me why, they had 666 candidates. It's like, why that number? Add one more. But they had 666 candidates, and they went through the process of analyzing them, and they found that those who are highly educated academically educated and experienced, they had less cognitive offloading
Uh-huh.
in using the same products. Those who were undereducated or less educated and younger are not cognitively formed yet, they offloaded way more, and it did not fire in their brains in the way that we would fire in experienced brains. So there is a segmentation here. So from a community health perspective, we have to think about the underserved who have access to this and have yet developed themselves, cognitively, and the young, who, especially young children, we have to really ask deeper questions. I think I'm sort of creating a movement around that and saying, not don't use it, but realize the impact on your cognition, depending on the nature of which you come to the machine. And we keep talking about how we should utilize the machine to elevate us, when the part of elevating us before the machine hasn't happened. And what does that elevating you mean? So that you can match the machine in your capacity. And that's where the antidote comes. I think the antidote is inconvenient learning. You have to try and fail on everything you do that is necessarily cognitively activated. It's been proven that the constant trying and then the breakdown and the anger and the blah, 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 all that creates a cognitive connections to your brain that powers your ability to be skilled at something with that 10,000 hours.
So does your research show then that, what Australia has done, and I believe it's, I don't know if it's New Zealand or one of the European countries that also said under 15, no social media. So this,
Yes.
is what you're seeing worse than the social media, or is it about the
I
same?
think social media was the substrate that was stuck in your arm. Now they're just powering the fact that says you can search. Now you don't even have to think about search. And I think that social media started the first addiction. And now the second obsession is now we're going to feed you with easy. You don't have to do this. It's done for you. And certain people react to that differently. I mapped the addictive DYDX growth of cocaine against the addictive growth of ChatGPT. And they mapped. And the same with Facebook. So there's certain technologies one has to really, I'm not trying to wave a be afraid, be always afraid. I'm trying to say, who are you when you come to the machine? Who are you? What do you want as your zone? When the waves of AI are going to continue moving from, I can answer your questions, I can do this, I'm now doing chat, I'm going to be an inference engine, I'm going to be a thinking engine, I might even have soul, right? All those questions are going to come. The deeper question is, who are you when those things are offloaded? What is remaining behind? And maybe take that thing that's remaining behind and elevate that and train that so that you'll never be able to be unmatched. So I'm making a slogan, sorry, if it's machine readable, then it's machine replaceable. So that which you have that is not machine readable should be something you protect and you grow. And what is that? You know what's so funny? I think that's innovation. I think that seeing beyond the fog, it's the thing that I asked Claude. I said, Claude, why didn't you come up with Airbnb? And it explained the factors that were the business model of Airbnb, described the history of Airbnb, talked about all the 5 different ways there. And I kept asking, why didn't you come up with it? And it finally said, I'm not capable of it because I can't see in the future. I am a combination machine. So that's when I said, oh, you're a combination machine. You're a combinatorial machine. I'm a comprehension machine. And we are 2 different machines. We get stimulus in 2 different ways. So how do I power myself so that the combination becomes insight-driven and AI-enabled? That's the story that I'm trying to wave in my head. It's only a first book, and I think I'm causing a lot of noise, but it'll come out February 17th. It's coming out in a week from now, and I'm hoping that it creates a movement of a conversation that says, oh, this is mine. My mind is mine. My cognition may be given away, but what remains, I have to. Am I coming across?
Yeah, so there was one question out in the audience. The young lady back there, somebody raised their hand. Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for the microphone, but I did project.
Yeah.
I actually am,
It's coming over.
I haven't read your book, obviously, it hasn't been out yet, but you touch on.
That would be cool, though.
Yeah, you're touching on very, very deep points because I think it goes beyond healthcare. It
Of
really
course.
goes beyond, it's changing our societal norms, just like we've seen it change with social media. And Kathleen was giving an example before with ambient technology, where the newer generation of nurses who are used to the new norms of texting and not verbalizing care, and how it's impacting healthcare today because of those shifted norms. And we're going to see, and like you said, social media was step one, and now with stepping further up the ladder to the AI-enabled thinking, or hoping not replaced, but for those of us who have had it before AI, so we've got two skills. But for those coming behind us who will be having primarily AI exposure and not having those formative years, that's where I'm worried about this societal shift
Yeah.
that we don't yet know the consequences of. And
Yeah.
I just wonder how you address that in your book.
I don't address it in the book. I write stories because stories wake up your mind, facts wake up your brain. So I don't want to wake your brain up. Your brain's functioning at night and day with all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And we are analytic with the brain. The mind, which is the distance between the brain, add your nervous system, your genetic background, your 5,000 years of history, your capacity at your molecular level to have instinct and insight. That stuff, that's what makes entrepreneurs entrepreneurs. That's what makes great insight-driven leaders. I mean, if you talk to Steve Jobs or you talk to any of the other great leaders, they saw something we couldn't see, and then they manifested it as a scaffolding that we climb. That sort of approach, machine cannot do that. A machine is unable to get an aha. We get the aha. And where do you get the aha? You know where you get the aha. Showers, sleeping, walking the dog, laughing, joking, sometimes drinking, sometimes other kinds of drinking. But that's what I've seen. The research shows that it's always when your brain is preoccupied without thinking that your mind awakens, and your mind is extremely, and from a neurological perspective, I've been doing a lot of research on it, and that is documented. It's documented when you get an aha. It's somewhere in the right region of your brain, and I kind of extrapolate. That's why you look to your right when you get an aha. It's almost like you awaken. So I asked neurobiologists, if gamma rays are firing here when you get an aha, is that where it starts? Is that the source? And they all say to me, the majority I talked to said, we don't know. It comes from everywhere. So if it comes from everywhere, we are a biological engine that has a capacity to see something that awakens us that others cannot see. And then we have the mechanical capability to manifest it. That which a machine can never see, because a machine back annotates. Machine looks at history and makes combinations of that. And if it's not making history, it doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It knows how to respond to history. So we are underestimating, once again, our own power. We're just giving it away. And we are giving it away wildly, and we're having large forums on how to give it away better. But it's frightening, right? I think I'm an innovator. I'm a practitioner innovator. I will innovate the rest of my life. I will die dreaming of something I've never seen before. And I need to empower that, and I will match the machine, because the machine can't do it.
Right.
And so that's the place I landed. I may be very wrong, but I'm willing to be wrong this way.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. If you think about go ahead, question.
I think this is a really critically important topic when you mentioned cognitive atrophy, and then some people get worse, because my son is 15 years old. I mean, I use AI, I play with it, but I noticed that if I ask for it for references, well, I know half the time it's wrong for the research that I do. But when I read it, I don't totally remember it. And I didn't know why until I talked to Mohan. But my son he's 15. He's studying for his US AP history exam, and he was using AI, and he wanted to prepare.
Yeah.
A week later,
What was his scores?
well, he, well, in the long run, he did okay, but he was studying and preparing and using not his notes, but AI.
Mm.
And a week later, I said, I'm going to quiz you. Let me help you with your AP US history exam test. He couldn't remember anything. So that scared me. And I think that what Mohan is touching on in terms of nutrition and the warning label is critical. I don't think we understand it. We don't know the impact on cognitive atrophy. I have great concerns about it for young people, especially my own children. So it's an incredibly important topic.
Well, the Google effect, by the way, they did a study on Google using Google, just search, right? Not AI, just search, and they had 172 candidates. And they found that the candidates who used Google for search, for particular searches, could not remember what they searched for within a short period of time. But they had the belief they knew what they searched for. They were very competent. They felt good. They were, because it's extended brain. So nobody's ever studied the extended brain concept and how far it's going. Natalia, I can't pronounce her last name, from MIT Media Labs, did a paper analyzing 54 candidates. They wrote 3 papers, wrote papers. One was LLM only. That means the people did full LLM. One did brain only, right? And then the third did search only. And then they sent the papers to professors who would review the paper and give their opinions, not knowing the source. I mean, and then they did fMRI and EEGs on the brains of the people who wrote the paper. And you know where I'm going, right? I mean, the movie ends the same way. It's just like any other, Hallmark movie. It ends well, but starts badly. It ends well with the LLM only not firing in their brain, and the readers not feeling the writer. They say the writer didn't own the subject. And then the search only is kind of in between, the 3 little bears, and you get it. And then the brain only is the most committed writers, according to the readers, and the most firing in the brain. So there's something there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is yet. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm a recovering computer scientist. I'm now writer speaker, and I am a healthcare guy. So you can hate me for all those reasons, but I'm concerned that we are running headlong into and we're being analyzed into how much are you obsessed, and you want to play with the game, so you want to be part of that. And where does that take us cognitively?
Yeah, well, one other thing to think about is that in the US, so how many of you were trained outside the US? Like you went to university, college, outside the United States or the West? Anybody else? Couple, right? So one of the big differences that you see between Eastern, and I'll say air quoted, is Eastern versus Western education, is that in the Eastern philosophies, there is a huge amount of emphasis on what came before us, what we respect before us, and how we build on top of that. In the Western philosophy, the idea is critical thinking above all else, right? In fact, don't believe everything you read. Now, if we take this extension, I actually read that paper that you're mentioning, and it was fascinating to see that hallmark ending. But what was interesting is that if you could teach that to kids, and I don't mean 15-year-olds. I mean, let's say kids are freshmen in college. Just like we teach them critical thinking, like why do we teach them about Aristotle and Plato? Because we say that that's the beginning of critical thinking. And if we say that you cannot have critical thinking if your companion is the AI, I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I'm saying that if you extend this to say that we can teach our way out of this, then basically all we have to decide, and all we have to decide is very, very difficult, is what do we do with kids younger than college?
Yeah.
And of course, parents get to control more of that to whatever extent. I have grandchildren, and I tell my kids, I'm like, I am really glad I didn't have any of this shit when I was trying to raise you guys, because my goodness, the decisions that you guys have to make. Do you allow phones or not? Do you allow smartphones or not? Do you allow Facebook, this, that, or the other? I'm like, so with what we see with our grandchildren is that they just have zero screen allowance unless it's with parents there, which is the same thing I do with our children is you were not allowed to be in front of a computer unless an adult was with you. That was for my kids. I did that until age about 16 or so. But I didn't know any better. I was just like, at least if I do it that way, things can't go too much worse.
Well, before you go there,
Yeah.
it's interesting that the conversation is going towards kids, right?
Yeah.
And I am not a child psychologist, so I was afraid to write this book because I don't have any basis for helping children become better. So I never made any statements in the book that followed through. But everyone I've given it to 5, 6 readers, and they all like, I'm worried about my children, worried about next generation. But you have to worry about you too, because London cabbie drivers were given a test. A group was using map only. Remember maps?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were using electronic maps, and another group was like traveling on their own. They just drove around knowing the roads. And they measured the brain's, the frontal lobe strength of both of them. And they found that the area where mapping, the GPS is located, the small position in your brain, shrunk for those people who use map only. And so, the brain is a muscle. So if you don't use your brain, it will shrink. The faculties that you place on the brain will not function. But the thing that's the antidote is the mind. If you can trigger your mental faculties, your instinct, you start going not just with your gut feel, but you use your data, but you use your feelings, you use your gut feel, you use your experience. Now, what happens when people don't have experience and they don't have memory of experiences? Then you're almost the same as a machine, because a machine has a false memory of history because it read it. That's how it first started, right? The first LLM was Reddit, and then only Reddits with 3 stars, which means all the fancy things, right? And so if you put yourself in the same place as a cognitively underdeveloped or to be developed young person, where do you want them exposed? So universities now, and I taught at Kellogg for 13 years, but I also am advisory board for one university. And they're all struggling with how do you educate, because the kids are coming in with LLMs. All their papers are, machine written. And their English is fantastic, but they can't speak at all, And so now they're going back to like verbal tests.
Yeah.
They're doing dissertation-like tests now. I know another school that's doing writing. You can't take your machine in, you write. So that's somebody with.
Yeah. No, thank
Please,
you,
go
Mohan.
ahead.
Sure.
Great conversation. I'm going to push the envelope a little bit to
Please.
you and the team that's here. So we mentioned social media. We mentioned, behavioral models, right, as far as cognitive psychology and association. But what if we in the healthcare industry utilized technology, right, in the healthcare system where we gamify the model, we gamify things, we encourage positive healthcare outcomes to our customers, and we use AI and other tools in order to do that. Do we still have an ethical conundrum when we know we're doing it for the good of the patient? Now, granted, it's opinionated, it's subjective, or who's good, but if we know the outcome is going to be correct, is there still an ethical ability to do that without the same experience we're having with social media? For what
Yeah, I don't, I mean, you use the word ethical. I am not discussing ethics because that's another story that it has
Whatever you
deep
call it.
roots and perspectives. I'm not afraid of it, but I don't think but the real issue here is that I'm proposing to you as a theory is, where do you land when you're using large language models in your life as individuals? Where do you start to notice your cognitive decay if it happens, and how do you utilize it? So there was a question here about nursing, and they were saying, you got to get on the wagon, right? Learn everything about AI. 2024 just had a study on doctors who were using machine learning, and they found that they were cognitively regressive. They forgot inferences, They could not make the right decision when they overdid it. So there's some line there that I think is between obsession and fear. And there's a space in between called AI enabled. And I think the antidote is insight, is getting more ahas. When a physician has an aha or a nurse has an aha, they bring it from somewhere else biologically. It's not all research. They have this thing, I've seen it, where physicians will say, I see all this data, my experience tell me this, I think you go here. And it's not like you should follow that paper or do that. I've seen physicians make that amazing decisions that shock me, right? Because I bring the data, they bring the experience, it comes together. Nurses have done that too. I've seen it in my life over and over again. I'm saying capture that in a bottle. Make sure that you train people to be able to always add their insight. Gamification is an instrumentation, but it's also an instrumentation for an aha. You find your way, but it's not predetermined by somebody else. It's something that's a new pathway. I think the world should, if you do history making, if you defy the rules that are given and build new things and structure it, your own infrastructure, you're more inclined to be cognitively capable than if you follow the machine and let the machine guide you. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good point. Paul, I think you had a question, and then
I think as a society, we got to take responsibility. Everything that we're theorizing now and what's good for us. In 2008, I was on a school board and I was told every kid needs a device in their hand or they're going to fall behind. And I'm a son of a math teacher who said, hey, math hasn't changed. I don't care what the technology is. Now I'm on a school board where they want devices out of kids' hands because they're using too much at home.
the Finns just did that.
Yeah. So,
Rolled it out.
I mean, we
Back to
we very learned people who get a following create these issues. And the awkward time is where you got to unwind it and confront the masses and say, you know what, we're doing more harm than good. You do it at conferences, right? And you start it with your dialogue, but it has to progress. I mean, I think if you want to pressure test a child for life, have them run around, fall down, and decide if they're going to cry and get up, and keep a wide circle around them. You don't put tech and information in front of them. I mean, they have plenty of time for that. So,
well, there's a lot of research on language and the use of language. It's ironic that LLMs is a language. And we have introduced a new species. Some people call it creatures. I thought it was funny. But we've introduced a new species into our equation, and it's getting a lot of attraction because it's easing our life. But is it cognitively affecting us is the question. I think the research will prove out longer than I am capable of documenting. I've documented as much as I can to hit your rational mind, but then I also want to hit your emotional mind that I need you to trust your instincts and say, here's the limit I can go. So handwriting has been proven to be cognitively positive. If you write, the brain registers. Now, then I said, okay, what if you write on an iPad? Would that work? And it's less, which is really odd. But if you're writing on an iPad, that's less retentive than writing on paper. So this art of writing, the art of singing, the art.
Lindsay's got a remarkable tablet. I wonder if
Right, I
that's
don't
any
know.
different.
I don't. The one that has the pressure, yeah. I don't know. I mean, look,
It's got the paper feel.
I've told you I'm neither a neuroscientist. Now I'm not a computer scientist anymore. I mean, I'm nobody, but I am concerned, and I'm trying to put my body of knowledge into this equation and hoping that
Although, Mohan, I
you'll
think
create the movement. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not me.
no. I think what we should do here is take the. Or did you have a question, please?
Oh, I didn't know about that. Was it the Finns?
The-
The Finnish? Who
yeah.
took the computers out of what country? Okay. Well, there's a
Finnish did.
longitudinal study right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Finnish have just removed
Yeah.
it.
Finland just
Compare
removed.
kids.
Yeah.
Who haven't touched it versus kids who do touch it. If there's an ecosystem out there in some country that hasn't, you could do a longitudinal study in 10 years, 15 years, we'll know.
Yeah.
That's actually a very important study to do.
Yeah, but I think the
I think
kids,
it'll be too late.
I don't think you have to worry about the kids as much as you have to worry about middle-aged people who are early in their careers. They're the ones who are gonna like be forced into adopting this, and then they will struggle. The kids are already kind of. If you look at the younger generation, I don't have a statement. I have a daughter in Oxford. What can I say? But if you look at them, they tend to know that you're a big mistake. me, right? They look at you like, okay, we got to put up with this person as long as we can. So they've intellectually already figured out we're not going your way because you created this mess. We have to fix. So they're a little smarter. The young adults who are coming into employment, who are saying, I'm going to lose jobs. What am I becoming? Is who I'm really addressing. I'm saying, bring back your imagination, bring back your curiosity. You cannot be an innovator anymore because you innovate on things that you believe you can extend. In this world of Gen AI, everyone is an explorer. You have to explore. And anyone who calls themselves, I see a lot of LinkedIn experts. Oh, I love them. And they're like, where did you get your expertise? This is a field that just started 4 years ago. I mean, did you invent it? So it's kind of funny. I don't believe in experts in AI. I believe in explorers.
Yeah.
And explorers have a different tendency. I'm an explorer. Come with me, learn with me. I will make mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing, but I kind of know where true north is, and I know how to avoid some rocks.
Yeah.
That's all it is. After that, you have to take it on.
So in the last 30 seconds that we have, Mohan, give some Thursday, today's Wednesday, so we'll give some Thursday morning advice for what senior executives and C-suite members should be doing just as advisory to their staff. I mean, you can't give dictums and edicts because it's not going to work, but tell us what would you be saying?
I think find in your teams the machine unreadable and actuate that. I ran an innovation team. I launched 10 companies in 10 years. It was that energy. It was the ability to get to the right side of your brain and bring up your instincts while the data is still there. I had data DJs providing instant information, but the people came up with business models that transformed. And the way to do that is to instigate joy back in the work, laughing, ice cream. I did everything. I bribed them in every possible way. I was a bad dad joke guy, and everybody put up with me. But you know what I was doing? I was cognitively enabling them to break from their tension of the analytics. So analytics will come no matter what you want. It's going to be there. It's going to be the high, but don't make it the prominent. The other is find the unreachable. There are things that people do as a team that cognitively form a new engine altogether. Individuals may not be able to take you to the highest levels, but teams, if you get the right combination, you can reach for the sky. The other thing is that I believe innovation in a transformative environment, business model shift, financial payment model shift, everything you talked about here, if you learn to mix that into the soup, it tastes better for the brain. If you start to say, what can I do to AI to become elevated? You become AI slop very quickly, and you don't know it bleeds on you very quickly. So just watch for that is all I'm saying. Buy 10,000 copies of my book, which that's how I can make up for all the noise. But also enjoy. There's too much anxiety. So the bridge between AI fear and AI obsession, there is a place for you. And that place you should own. And I just saw a research paper come out at the university, in George Fox University in Portland, Oregon, where two professors did a study on the band between these 2 points. So they ironically did the same thing I was doing. And they proved that that band, when a CEO overemphasizes AI or a CEO underemphasizes AI, the social impact is almost negligible. There is somewhere in between where the CEO encourages insight and encourages the assembly of your brain and mind, where it actually gets absorbed in a corporation. So I found independent research that's proving the first chapter at least worth noting.
Awesome. Well, big round of applause for Mohan. We're giving you some thought-provoking advice this afternoon.